Welcome to Shoe Leather Faith. My name is Robert McMillan, and I'll be teaching you for the next 10 minutes about disciplining our children. Right now I want to share with you 3 examples of godly parents who raised foolish children whom God ultimately judged. And we need to take these 3 examples very carefully because God is gracious, we know, but He doesn't play around with our playing with sin. And if we're careless in our raising of our children, He'll deal with us and He'll bring down the hammer on our children. So let's look at these 3. It's part of the whole responsibility we have as parents to train our children. We have to teach them the narrow way. We have to teach them about their responsibilities before God. We have to teach them about God. We have to teach them about themselves and their sin nature. I want to go to the first example I have, and that is Eli's children, his 2 sons, Hophni and Phinehas. Turn with me in 1 Samuel chapter 3, verses 10 through 13. It says, "Now the Lord came and stood and called as at other times, Samuel, Samuel." Now remember, this is Samuel, a little boy who's been brought to Eli to raise, because his mother Hannah said, "I will dedicate this child to the Lord if the Lord gives me a child, a son." And when the child was weaned, he was brought in and given over to the tutelage of Eli. Eli was a judge in Israel before the kings. So there's Samuel. He's sleeping on the floor on a mat in Eli's house. And God calls to him, and he thinks it's somebody else. Eli says after the second time, "This is the Lord talking to you, so Samuel, next time you ask him what he wants, because it's not me calling you." So here's the third time. 1 Samuel chapter 3, verses 10 through 13. "Now the Lord came and stood and called as at other times, 'Samuel, Samuel.' And Samuel answered, 'Speak, for your servant hears.' Then the Lord said to Samuel, 'Behold, I will do something in Israel at which both ears of everyone who hears it will tingle. In that day I will perform against Eli all that I have spoken concerning his house, from beginning to end.'" So Eli has already had a warning, hasn't he? And apparently he didn't pay heed to it. And so this is God bringing judgment. God always gives the parents He trusts with children, always gives them lots of warning. And it's all in this book. We need to pay attention as parents to what this book is saying. Verse 13, continuing on. "For I have told him that I will judge his house forever for the iniquity which he knows, because his sons made themselves vile, and he did not restrain them." He didn't narrow them back onto the path. He let them go every which way. He let them stretch themselves. "And therefore I have sworn to the house of Eli that the iniquity of Eli's house shall not be atoned for by sacrifice or offering forever." When Samuel woke up, Eli said, "Tell me what God told you, and don't leave anything out." And Samuel told him. I said, "It is the Lord. Let him do what seems good to him." Eli knew at that moment that he had failed to correct his sons when there was time. And now there was the penalty to be paid. We go on a little bit more, and Samuel becomes a man and takes Eli's responsibilities as judge of Israel. In 1 Samuel chapter 8, if you'll turn there, 1 Samuel chapter 8, verses 1 through 6, it says, "Now it came to pass when Samuel was old that he made his sons judges over Israel." Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. But it doesn't stay nice. "The name of his firstborn was Joel, and the name of his second, Abijah. They were judges in Beersheba. But his sons did not walk in his ways." Somehow or other, he did not transfer to his sons the way to live. He didn't model Jesus to them in a way that they would understand and follow out. And he didn't discipline them so that they realize that the way that they have to follow is a narrow way. They thought they could do whatever they wanted. But his sons did not walk in his ways. They turned aside after dishonest gain, took bribes, and perverted justice. Any one of those is enough to disqualify them as judges. These were things that Samuel, as the father, should have taught his sons, regardless what position in life his sons would have taken. We're not supposed to teach our children to go after dishonest gain, or to take bribes, or to pervert justice. And those were all the things that the judges of Israel were responsible to avoid. Then all the elders of Israel gathered together and came to Samuel at Ramah, and said to him, "Look, you are old, and your sons do not walk in your ways. Now make us a king to judge us like all the nations." But the thing displeased Samuel when they said, "Give us a king to judge us." So Samuel prayed to the Lord. And it goes on, and God said, "They're rejecting me, Samuel. They're not rejecting you. Go ahead and give them a king." And they started off with King Saul, who was a failure. But then went to King David and King Solomon, who were successes. And after King Solomon, his son was foolish. And it just started going downhill. If they had only stayed with God and let him be their king, leave Israel a theocracy, the way it will be someday in the future. But they asked for a king to judge them because they've got 2 generations of poor judges. They've got Eli's sons, Hophni and Phinehas, and now they've got Abijah and Joel. And they were wicked men, foolish men, who were not restrained by their fathers. Well, it goes from bad to worse, folks. Turn to 1 Kings chapter 1. 1 Kings chapter 1. 1 Kings 1, verse 5 and 6. Now, at this time, King David is old. And he's got 2 primary sons, Adonijah, who was officially in the lineage to become king when King David died. And then there was Solomon, the younger brother, whom David had already chosen, but hadn't crowned. And here's what it says. Then Adonijah, the son of Haggith, exalted himself, saying, "I will be king." Well, that's David's job, not Adonijah's. And he prepared for himself chariots and horsemen, and 50 men to run before him. He's already starting to act like a king. He's talking like a king. He's walking around Jerusalem like a king. And here's the kicker, verse 6. And his father had not rebuked him at any time by saying, "Why have you done so?" He was also very good looking. His mother had borne him after Absalom. Absalom was also dead, by the way, for rebellion against his father. So David did not rebuke his son at any time, saying, "Why have you done this?" He didn't hold him accountable to a godly lifestyle or any kind of lifestyle. He just let him grow like a weed. We cannot let our children just grow like weeds. They're not capable of that and turn out right. We have to be invested in their lives. We have to be involved in their lives. We have to be directing their lives until they can direct themselves. And in all 3 cases, with Eli and his sons, Samuel and his sons, and David and his sons, particularly Adonijah, these fathers failed to do what was they were responsible to do. So anyway, we're going to stop right there. Next time we're going to look into the issue of sheltering our children. We've talked about training them. Now we're going to look into sheltering them. If you haven't looked at the previous video, I encourage you to do that to be up to speed. Next time we're going to go into the sheltering of our children. How do we shelter them? And what do we shelter them from? If you can hit the like button down below and subscribe to this channel, I'd appreciate it very much. And if you have a comment or a question or something you'd like to know about biblical child rearing, write it down there and I will respond to it, either directly to you or in one of the next videos. Until then, God bless you.